Hello, this is David Sauvage. I gather that I'm talking to the Evolver social movement, which has 3 million followers on Facebook and maybe up to 10,000 people or so watching. My impression right now is just sitting here with a cell phone in front of me with the marketing manager for Evolver, Casey, who has been kind enough to come to my living room, my apartment in the East Village, and shoot this as we talk about what it's like to be an empath, and perhaps if it feels right, I will read her. And I feel a little adrift in this, so I'm going to periodically look over at the screen for feedback and questions and the like.
Refresh the page.
Apparently I have to refresh the page. So I'm going to embrace the awkwardness of this moment. Oh boy, that looks awkward. 44 people. Okay. 44 people, that's a reasonable number of people that we can take specific questions from. Well,
You have to click on it.
What?
You have to click on it to see the...
Click for more?
Like, yeah, there you go.
Alright. Okay. Well, I feel like showing you first, if you're interested in what an empath is. The word originates in science fiction. People use the word now in a kind of new age woo-woo sense of I feel deeply. That meaning doesn't resonate for me, but it's perfectly legitimate because the word was just invented in 1956, and it was invented for a short story called Empath that appeared in this magazine called New World's Science Fiction, and it was coined by a fellow named J.T. McIntosh for a story called Empath. And J.D. McIntosh, the first person to ever use the term, in fact the originator of the term, calls an empath this. It's a sensitivity to atmosphere, to aura, to feelings, mostly the atmosphere created by a lot of people close to you, sometimes just the attitude of one person. That's the first ever definition of an empath. And he works to distinguish it from somebody with telepathy and says, it isn't telepathy. No one can pick words or ideas out of another person's brain. In the short story, it's the story of a woman who discovers that she has this magical ability to track this man she falls in love with by virtue of her ability to feel his feelings. So when he's in danger, she can feel where he's at. And that's the way the word originated. And it would be another 20 years before anyone would mean the word as in the contemporary sense of somebody feeling another person's feelings. I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts or responses. What do you get from me, says Andrea Pena. Hi from Ohio. Go Case. I don't know what... Oh, that's you, Case.
Yeah, that's my friend.
Oh, hi, Andrea. Definition of an empath is true. Thank you, Blair. Does anyone have any questions for me about empaths, being an empath, what the word means, or anything of the sort? My nose looks really big at this profile. It's really uncomfortable for me. Well, maybe not. Case, do you want to ask me some questions? That might help.
How did you first, how did this go from just you feeling like the standard, standard of what we may consider empathy to wow, I'm really feeling the actual feelings of this human in an intense way?
There wasn't exactly a moment. It was a lifelong experience. I would say the difference, you have a touch of this, Casey, and your instinct primarily is to shield yourself a little bit. You're not totally shielded, but when you start feeling somebody else's feelings, this wall comes up. It's subtle, but it's present in you. And for me, it was even more present. So I shut my whole system down. And then when I started to open it up, then I felt I was feeling everyone's feelings all the time. And it was like overwhelming, and I had to learn how to work with it. And probably more than anything else, ayahuasca was the key to me discovering that I was holding all other people's emotions and teaching me how to release it.
And do you believe this is something like that a skill that anyone can sort of hone in on, or is it a gift that you were given? How do you
I think it's like, great question. I think it's like musical talent. We all have some degree of ability to play music, understand music. Some people are going to be naturally more talented at music and develop that talent. Some people are going to be naturally talented and not develop it. Some people are just going to put in a lot of work and be able to do it. So I feel like we're all empaths. I mean, there isn't a mother on earth, I don't think, who wouldn't say that she hasn't felt what her child is feeling. I feel like that's built into being human, certainly built into being a woman, and maybe I'm on the extreme side of being an empath, but not even all the way. There are people much more sensitive than I am to other people's feelings.
Looks like you're getting some questions on the hotline.
Let's see. Oh, can you see them too?
Yeah.
Okay.
But let me see if I can scroll. I can't. Oh, wait. Okay. So, Kate Serlin asks...
Hey, Kate.
She's my roommate. Do you find this ability emotionally disturbing at any points?
Yes. I am disturbed by some of the feelings that I encounter in other people. When I'm actually tuning into people deliberately, I do a really good impression of the Buddha and genuinely provide non-judgmental awareness of whatever is happening. Even when I encounter homicidal rage, suicidality, some deep sexual trauma, it doesn't matter what it is I'm experiencing in another, I really can, while I'm reading people, hold their feelings compassionately and without any judgment. But when I step into my normal life, I can feel disturbed by some of what I've experienced in other people. The most disturbing emotion of any emotion that I've felt in others, by far, the most painful emotion to feel is self-hatred. There is nothing worse in the emotional landscape than to hate yourself.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Let's see. Nicole Smallwood asks, how can you tell if it's the other person around you or your mood changes?
You cannot, Nicole. That is a great question. I would say it like this. It's a matter of, there's no one answer to that question. It's a matter of granularity. So let's say, Nicole, you knew everything about your own feelings. You knew the texture, the subtlety, when things arise, what's happening, where it comes from. You felt every little thing you were feeling. And then you walked into a room and you felt something that felt a little different. You'd go, oh, this isn't me. Without doing that introspection into your own emotional system, it becomes very hard, if not impossible, to know what is yours and what isn't yours at the moment that it's happening. What you can do is say things to yourself like, I hereby release everything that is not of me back to whomever it belongs. You could put up a shield around yourself. You can release everybody else's energy from your body and imagine going into the ground and then see what's left. You can also remove yourself from the situation and then see if you've shifted.
Wow. Brenda wants to know, how do you know the difference between knowing others' feelings and guessing? How do you know how do you know?
I don't know if I know the answer to that question about anything.
Good call.
How do I know you start by how do I know my own feelings? And often I'm wrong about that. And how many times does it feel like we're sad, but really the sadness is just covering anger? Or we feel lazy, but the laziness is covering frustration. So emotions exist in complex layers even in ourselves. Add in the additional complexity of trying to make sense of somebody else's inner life, and I would say you are invariably guessing. So What I'm doing is I'm tuning into somebody, I'm feeling what they're feeling, and I'm sharing what it is I feel they're feeling, and I'm willing, sometimes even at my best, eager to make mistakes, learn, get feedback. That's not what's going on. It's a lot of guessing and playing around.
Yeah, have you ever tuned into someone and someone been like, no, I totally disagree?
That happens.
Or is it just like something at a way deeper level than they can grasp?
I think both things happen. Sometimes I'm really spot on what's happening and they're not yet prepared to tune into themselves enough to experience it with me. And other times I might be projecting something onto them. There's a chance that I have an image of somebody and I tune into that image as opposed to that person. I'm sure that happens. And then I think what happens, I would say the vast majority of my errors in describing what other people are going through are language problems. Like, I think that the feeling is what the feeling is, but then how do you turn that into language that translates to another person or translates to a third party?
So it's really a skill you need to develop and work on and practice.
Yeah. It's like any other. It's, you know, it's having a fine appreciation for the subtleties of what's happening in your body, and from there an appreciation of what's happening in others' bodies.
So I know you talk about this, you're going to go over this a lot in your course, but Julie Ramos wants to know what good ways are to shield and protect yourself when you're empathic in these ways.
Julie, that is the great question. First thing to say about shielding and protecting yourself is one size does not fit all. So what works for me may not work for you. The trick is to find what works for you. Here are some of the things that work for me that might work for you, but if they don't, throw them out. First, this is product placement that I get paid no money for. This necklace has been one of the most effective shields I've ever had. It's called the E-Force Plus. It was $175. I've never spent $175 on anything as I'm about to say as silly as this or as seemingly frivolous, but I did, and when I put it on, I just immediately feel more grounded and more secure. That's one thing I do to shield myself.
What's it made of?
I have no titanium.
So it's like a
titanium and some like
talisman
thingies, black thingies. I don't know.
It works.
I'm not one of these people who understands crystals or onyx or any of that stuff or astrology. I don't understand any of that stuff, but I understand this stuff. The other thing that I do all the time is I imagine, as I mentioned, energy flowing out of my body and into the earth. And for me, it's more important to release what comes in than it is to protect myself. But in cases where I do need to actually protect myself, I will envision that I'm surrounded by white light, or I will envision an actual force field, like a bubble, protecting me. Let's take somebody who is an energy sucker in the public eye as an example, because it will be fun, notwithstanding my potential lack of sensitivity around the topic, for which I apologize. But Kevin Spacey is precisely the kind of energy vampire that one would need to protect him or herself from. I'm not talking in a physical sense, though obviously one needs to protect themselves from Kevin Spacey in a physical sense now. But I'm actually talking just in an emotional sense. He has an incredible ability to penetrate through space and manipulate you and fuck with your energy field. You can see this in all of his performances. He embodies that dark archetype. He is somebody, if I were ever around him, I would want to put a big energy shield up. Protection, 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 protection. You cannot get through here.
Wow.
That makes sense?
I can actually see it in his eyes. I was just watching a movie with him in it yesterday. It's piercing. So Monica wants to know, do you find this ability can help you as a person help a person see more of themselves, a different perspective, like more insight into who they are and their own emotions?
Do you mean does checking into other people's emotions help me understand myself better, or is that the question?
I think that, well, the way I see your question is more like, do you feel like your ability is just like you feel other people's emotions really clearly and intensely? Do you feel like you feel your own emotions in a different way? Or how, like, you know, I guess what those rare times when you're just feeling your own emotions and not other person's emotions.
I feel my own emotions all the time. I felt a real sense of disappointment. I'll give you a concrete example. There's a band that I just love, called Elephant Revival. And periodically I check to see when they're playing, but I hadn't checked for a few months, and I checked today. I've only seen them live once, like 5 years ago. And I saw that they were playing this Monday, and it just so happens that Monday I'm leaving New York and going to London. And I just felt so disappointed, like in this, you know, I could even, here's what it did. Normally, or an older version of me would have said, oh, that's ridiculous to be disappointed that your band is playing and you can't go, like, get over yourself. That's the cultural attitude toward emotions generally. If something doesn't rise to a certain level of theoretical importance, is defined by some super ego cultural norm, we dismiss the emotion. And I think because I've become increasingly sensitive to other people's emotions and their emotional needs, when that happened, I said to myself, like, it's okay. That's really too bad. Like, I both made myself feel better, but I didn't diminish the pain. I didn't say it's nothing. No, it actually hurt. I was actually disappointed. And if that sounds like self-absorbed, that's our cultural judgment getting layered on a real feeling. And that feeling was real and needs to be honored too, if we want to be in touch with ourselves and with others.
So would you say that you're probably a little bit better at going deeper, like examining the surface emotions, trying to like touch where it's really coming from and what it really means? You do that work on yourself?
Yeah, although I don't think it's about seeing where things really come from. That's another level of work, and that shit's for real too. One can do that. That's not what I was doing with the disappointment I was just describing. All I was doing with the disappointment was giving that feeling space. Literally saying, like, it's okay to have this feeling. I'm going to feel it totally. And I literally went like, damn it. And I felt a little better.
Yeah, that helps me too. Misty says she gets physically sick when she feels like intense emotions of others, and wants to know if this ever happens to you.
Yes, this has happened to me. I think it was the source of my depression. And then on a physical level, I have taken in somebody's feelings a couple of times where it did level me. So yes, it has happened to me. And Missy, I would like to help you. Can you know, it would be nice. And Missy, if you're willing, is there a way to get a picture of her? Or is that too ambitious? Maybe that's too ambitious.
You can do it. You can. I don't think I should click away, but you can click away in there. If you see her comment, just click on her profile. Missy Escobedo.
This might be too ambitious. All these. Okay.
Do you see it?
Well, Missy, I want to help you by looking at your picture and telling you what's going on with you. Misty? There you are. Misty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Misty. I hope this is okay. I'm looking at your picture. Assuming that's you, you're the woman, not the man.
That's safe.
Alright. Missy, I'm looking at your picture. And can I show people's... No, I'm not going to show your picture to the world. But I'm going to look at it and tell you what I'm feeling is going on with you when you say that. You are... A lot of times, we don't know where our own limits are in terms of taking on other people, because we're driven so much to be of service or to be kind, and we have a conception of ourselves as kind and caring, or we really, really, really deeply care about the well-being of others, and so we take in more than we can handle in order to transmute it or heal them or work with them. And so in your case, and this is frequently the case, it's a question of boundaries, and you have not yet established for yourself healthy boundaries. This angelic quality that is you, but if you lean into it too much, you're going to be taken over. So the more you can be in touch with your own anger and your own need to separate yourself from other people, the less you'll be getting sick. It could be that you're taking on people's emotions and that's why you're getting sick, but it could also just as easily be that you're depleting yourself by giving too much of yourself, or both. Thanks for that question. I hope that was helpful.
It's crazy that you can tune in from a photograph.
We'll see if Missy thought that was accurate.
Let's see.
Missy, I'd love it.
She said that's me, but I don't know if that's when you were asking if she was the man or woman.
I can't find this.
Just go to the side where it says videos.
Okay. Almost.
On the left.
Videos. Okay. Live now, me leaning over. Nice.
Just make sure you click on it to see the comments.
Okay. Maria loves everything I said. Thank you, Maria.
Oh wait, someone else. I need to pick her. I lost her. Someone...
Yeah, picture is just as good for me.
Yeah.
Picture is I can tune in with a picture very easily.
Is that a skill you think like that other empathic people can develop?
Mm-hmm.
That seems
absolutely.
That seems like a whole nother layer. Like when you just, because I would imagine that it's like a vibrational, like you sense their vibrations. It's like.
To me, a person physically present is the same as a picture, is the same as a voice. I just need a radio signal, and then I can dive in. And what you just saw there was more. It was more just me being open to what I was feeling and experiencing in her, and then sharing that.
Wow. Someone wants to know how the hell you survive as an empath in New York City.
This is the greatest city in the world.
All the feels. She said, walking down the street would drive me crazy. Maybe living there has thrown you into the fire and you have become more aware of yourself.
No, don't give me so much credit. I don't think that's true. I think I'm an empath, but I'm not only an empath. And we exist on so many different dimensions. So I think New York in a lot of ways has been hard for me because I can be overwhelmed. More and more I've gotten better at releasing myself rather than protecting myself. Protecting yourself is what you need to do until you learn how to completely release what comes into you. And so New York gets easier and easier the more I learn how to protect myself. Or release. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard, but I love this city, so I'm here.
So Rachel says, I'm definitely an empath, but when I'm absorbed in someone else's feelings, I am often unable to say the right thing or have trouble saying anything helpful at all. It's overwhelming. Do you have any advice in that regard? Like beyond just saying, okay, this is what you're feeling. How do you help? Do you do anything to...
Well, was that Rachel there?
That was Rachel Johnson.
Rachel, that's a beautiful question. I have an annoying answer for you. It's kind of like you got to do your homework, but the homework is that the way you treat your own emotions is the way you will treat others' emotions. So, what I was saying about my own feeling of disappointment earlier, that when I felt disappointment at something stupid, instead of saying, oh, that's stupid and repressing it, I allowed it to come up, even though to the outside it might seem trivial. The same thing holds true with you, Rachel. If you start to honor your own feelings, and that literally means saying, when I have a feeling, that's okay, that's what I'm feeling, to yourself as you feel it, and leaving space for your own feelings, then without even thinking about what to say, you will know more what to say.
Aaron wants to know if you've ever had a problem with projecting what you are feeling from someone else.
What do you mean, projecting?
As I read that question,
projecting what I'm feeling onto someone else? Yes, of course.
Let's just answer that.
Of course. I have that is when you're doing any kind of quote unquote therapeutic work, you're sitting with somebody, you're reading people, it is not just possible that you will put your own stuff onto them. It is 100% inevitable unless you are the Buddha himself. So what I do is I'm conscious of when what I'm experiencing the other reminds me of me, and I tell them that. It's a very different experience for me to read a 90-year-old woman contemplating her own mortality versus a 35-year-old man struggling artist. When there's real distance between me and the person I'm reading, it's much easier to tune into them completely and know what's not mine and what's theirs. When it's somebody who's like oh, this person struggled with depression and is really sensitive and is trying to be a writer or something like that, I'm like, I really have to tread carefully because this is all me.
Mm. And then I know this is like goes under the whole, realm of protecting yourself, but then does it happen vice versa? Like you feel feelings that maybe you've absorbed from someone else? Or is that kind of easier to detect? And
what do you mean?
Like when you are, when you're reading someone and
Mm-hmm.
feeling someone's feelings, do they ever kind of become mixed up as yours or get like ingrained as your emotions?
Do they get stuck with me later?
Yeah.
For a few minutes sometimes. So I'm doing reading after reading, I'll literally like stand up and wipe myself down and jump up and down if I feel like they're with me. Yeah, but people's emotions, even when I'm not reading them, can get stuck in me. There was a woman once who was telling me all about this dark relationship she was having with a man, and she was saying that it was affecting her side right here, and literally for the next 2 weeks I had a pain in my side, and I had to go to a Reiki practitioner to get rid of it. So I think she just transferred whatever she got from that dude through her onto me. So stuff like that happens for sure. It's a little bit like there's no way you can walk out into the world without risking getting hurt somehow. Well, there's no way you can walk into people's emotional lives without risking picking something up.
A lot of people are talking specifically about like narcissists and how they really affect like interactions with them. Absorbing their energy is particularly
The Kevin Spacey problem.
Yeah, it's particularly harmful.
Yes. There's a conversation online I gathered that I haven't been following very carefully about the relationship between narcissists and empaths, but I think I can talk about it as a somewhat narcissistic empath. The narcissist, including the narcissist in me, has a compulsion on a deep level to generate certain reactions in the other that feed the narcissistic need. So to go by Kevin Spacey has a compulsion. We can look at it through his character, or we can look at it through the characters he plays, or we can also look at it through what he's been accused of, having being deferred to in a certain way. And the empath, because they're so tuned into the experience and the needs of the other, feels compelled to serve it up. So it becomes a trap where you constantly are feeding the narcissist's need. What I don't like about this conversation is the demonization of narcissism, as if narcissists are bad people. Narcissists, and I believe I have had, and maybe do have some mild, not intense, but mild narcissistic personality traits. And I know the feeling in myself of narcissism. And it comes on a deep level from a feeling of lack. That's on a deep, unhealed feeling of lack. And that compulsively feeds itself on others. But the empath, the unhealed empath, has a deep need to serve that he or she hasn't fully examined. Mm-hmm. And those two wounds work with each other. It's not that the empath is innocent and the narcissist is guilty. It's that in the case of the archetypes, the empath has not healed his or her wound that forces them to constantly be of service. And the narcissist has not healed his or her wound that forces him or her to constantly be taking. They are both feeding each other's deepest needs. So it's not to be compassionate toward the empath and not the narcissist. They are a match made in hell if neither one of them has worked on their deepest stuff.
Yeah, it's not like you'd consider it I don't want to call empath like a disorder, but a better word for that. It's like a condition of the mind. It's not who someone is intrinsically. Well, I guess people are empathic, but that relates to this question. Do you think there's a connection between being an empath and being an introvert or depressed, like depressive tendencies? What about the need for empaths to be artists as a release? So I guess that's the same kind of thing. People are empathic. They need an outlet. they need to release that, right? It's kind of what you're saying.
Truthfully, the relationship between being an empath and being depressed, I know about in my own body. I had absorbed so many people's emotions that I became like a clogged pipe, and I shut down, and I spent years in a black cave emotionally. I would not say that that is true of every depressive, and I would not say that is true of every empath. To be an empath is to be hypersensitive or sensitive to the emotions of people around you to the extent that you take them on in your body. At least that's how I use the word. The word depressed is a 1990s semi-clinical word that can mean a million different things. It could cover sadness, rage, confusion, or some combination of all of those things. Certainly some empaths are depressed, and some empaths have, as the cause of their depression, the fact that they haven't learned how to release the emotions of others. Introverts are not necessarily empaths, though introverts are more likely to be empathic, because introverts are more likely to be sensitive, and being an empath is a form of sensitivity. I am an extroverted empath. I derive more energy from being with people than being away. That makes me slightly unique in the empath world, but not super unique. So these things are really hard to tease apart. I'm doing my best.
So Angela asks, on that note, I find I completely shut down emotionally and conversationally when I'm around large groups. I think it's a self-defense not to show any emotion. How can I not act so cold? I know I'm not really cold, but I can't help it when I'm absorbing everyone's emotions.
Okay, can I look at Angela's picture? Let's see, Angela. See if I can help you.
Angela Shirtleaf.
Really need it. I don't know if I'll be able to find this one.
It's not that far from the bottom.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm going to give up looking, but the question is, how can you avoid shutting down when you're around other people?
Yeah.
You know you're not a cold person, but you do shut down.
And like someone else asked, like they said that they get really cold, like they just get really cold and they kind of act like an asshole. She said, how can she keep herself from them, like from being themselves and open while also feeling all the feels?
So many great questions that I may not be equal to answer. The first thing I want to say is whatever I answer, don't take it too seriously, because it might not hold up for you, and I'm just taking a question off a Facebook post, and this question might be much, much deeper for you. But I wonder if your question shows a sort of lack of self-compassion, because what you're struggling with there is extremely difficult. And I can hear in the question you're holding yourself to a certain standard of behavior. Like, I should act this way in this situation, but I'm not. What's wrong with me? Another way of framing that would be, wow, I'm really sensitive, and in these situations, my body actually shields myself so that I'm not overwhelmed and can continue to function, albeit at a diminished capacity. And when you reframe it like that, like your body is being of service to you and is not a problem, you create space for growth to happen. When you see it as a problem, you reduce the possibility you'll be able to work through the problem.
Interesting. Clint says, sometimes I want to lock myself away from it all. It can feel endless. If I could have a technique to shake it off, I could be more effective when I'm really needed.
Wow, this seems like a variation on the same question.
People want to know how to protect themselves.
Can you read that question again to me?
Yeah, sometimes I want to lock myself away from it all. It can feel endless. If I could have a technique to shake it off, I could be more effective when I'm really needed.
Here's my first suggestion. Lock yourself away from it all sometimes. That might very well be your technique to shake it off. So instead of resisting the drive to shut down, you might consider accepting the drive to shut down for a little while and come back. That might be your body's reset button. Imagine if I asked this question about sleep. Every day I have this compulsion to lay in bed for like 6 or 8 or 9 hours. What the hell is wrong with me? If I could only get rid of that, I could be so much more effective. As opposed to my body is telling me what to do. What if I listened?
Trying to find more questions. You're really covering it all.
Thank you for being
Have you, or are you interested in writing a book? They would like to read it.
What should it be called? There's a new friend of mine named Sydney Campos is writing a book called The Empath Experience, which should be coming out in May. And there's a book called by Judith Orloff about being an empath. I've read most of it, and it's pretty good. So there's a lot of stuff out there about how to protect yourself that is pretty good. I'm not sure exactly what I would be adding to the conversation yet, and maybe that will become clear. I guess what I'm interested in is maybe I haven't seen so much of this. This is maybe what I'm interested in is what does being an empath mean in a spiritual sense and a spiritual journey. And there's not much writing about that. Maybe one day I'll write something like that. Or maybe a publisher will approach me and say, I'll give you $100,000 to write about your story, in which case I will just say yes.
How do you relax and control the thoughts and feelings coming in? How do you say stop to your mind? Like, do you ever feel like it's just like a flood rush, or you just let that happen?
This is a meditation question. Answer: telling your mind to stop does not work. Try it. Mind, stop. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Okay. Alternative approach, much more effective. I didn't come up with this. This solution is thousands of years old, but I endorse it. Is instead of telling your mind to stop, you watch it move around. You just watch it. Then if you want, you can bring your mind's attention to anything you like. Could be the breath, could be the sounds outside, could be what you're feeling, could be your body, it doesn't really matter. You just bring your attention back to that aspect that you're focusing on. And you get better and better at bringing it back. It's how you train your mind. That's really a question. I mean, I meditate every day, and I'm a big believer in meditation. And I love this stuff. But that's really a question for the meditation experts. Here's the book I'm reading right now that I love, called Why Buddhism is True. This is one of my favorite writers in the world. This is a great book if you're trying to figure out how to still your mind and you come from a sort of Western mindset.
Well, you already spoke a little bit about this. Thank you for talking about this skill, gift, intelligence. I'm a therapist who uses this in my helping to heal others. What is your self-care routine? So, anything else besides meditation?
Yes, my self-care routine is as follows. Every morning, wake up. You're in my apartment here, so I can show you. Every morning, I wake up and I sit on this thing for 30 minutes, and I watch my mind. And I just mindfully experience whatever it is I'm experiencing. 30 minutes every day. I haven't missed a day in 3 years, actually. I'm really proud of my habit there.
That's incredible.
Second thing I do, after I do that, I lay down on this carpet and I tense and release my muscles. I literally tense up like this for about 20 minutes on and off until my muscles can't do it anymore. Until I literally go, I'm done. Then I sit on this very chair, but in that corner of the room, and I imagine all the energy that is not mine going down my body and out through my feet and into the center of the earth. Then I call up energy from the center of the earth into my body and all the way out through the top of my head in a cycle. Like I'm cycling stuff that isn't mine down, and I'm cycling in pure stuff. Then I imagine giving back whosever emotions or energy is stuck in me. I imagine giving it back to them. So if I had an encounter with somebody and something stuck of them, I will literally see myself giving it back. I will do a visualization. I'm not thinking about whose energy is stuck in me. I'm allowing whosever energy is stuck in me to show itself to me. Then I imagine or call in these two, I don't know what they are. They're like my spirit guides. They're stuff I'm not even sure I believe in, but I see them every day, and they show up and they go through my whole system and clear out everything that's left. Then I go like this, and I say, I hereby call back everything that is of me back to me. And I can feel it all coming back to me, all this scattered energy that is mine. Then I do say a mantra I don't feel like sharing for some reason because I feel it's embarrassing. And then I go about my day with my necklace. And that's what I do every single day, almost without fail. The meditation without fail, and all the other self-protection almost without fail. I also, that's like brushing my teeth. So I brush my teeth every morning. I don't brush my teeth at night, though maybe I would benefit from it. I write every night, so I do that. That's another way of releasing. And then I do plant medicine on a fairly regular basis. Ayahuasca, San Pedro, iboga, all sorts of stuff. Mushrooms, that really clears me out. So if doing these self-care routines in the morning is like brushing my teeth, doing the ayahuasca is like going to the dentist. Then I spend time in nature. Yeah, that's my self-care routine. It's a lot.
Wow, that is a lot. How long does that take you?
Every morning it's an hour.
Wow, good for you. A lot of people are, and that's actually something I was curious about. A lot of these people seem to have been drawn to either help like humans for like their career or animals. Have you ever? Do you feel the emotions of like dogs?
I feel the emotions of animals in exactly the same way and to the exact same extent that I feel the emotions of people.
Oh
there
my
is
God.
literally no difference for me. I would say the range of emotions that I experience animals as having is more limited than I do with humans. But you can put me in a zoo and I can feel the feeling of being trapped. Like I can feel the sadness.
Wow.
And you put me in a safari and I can feel the expansiveness in my body. I feel what it's like to fly. I feel what it's like to crawl. I feel what it's like to be a spider even. I wouldn't say they're having an emotional experience, but they're having an experience that I can also experience.
That's awesome. Wow. My dog has a lot of emotion, so I was wondering about that. Where do you draw the line when you're telling other people about a physical condition or illness that you feel? Do you feel that?
I'm not as tuned into the physical, so I'm more tuned into people's emotions.
Right.
Every once in a while I do tune into the physical, and I do have some ability to experience that. It's so less developed in me that I feel not as confident sharing. So rarely will I say like, I feel like something is wrong with your kidney. I mean, I don't think I've ever said a sentence like that in my life. Sometimes when I feel people emotionally, I can feel that it is physical too. I can feel indigestion or stomach pain, back pain. There is a relationship between emotions and the physical body that I would love to know more about. I've been hanging out in the emotional plane and getting a real sense of it. I think I would probably need to work with a medical intuitive or somebody who really understands the relationship between like intuition and the physical body, and then I would get that down.
Candace wants to know if cannabis helps you at all.
I do not smoke pot, so I don't know.
Too many feels. Well, that pretty much covers all the questions we've gotten in here.
Okay.
This is a very incredible, active conversation.
This is great to answer questions. I love it.
I'm trying to see if I missed anything.
We covered it. Should we tell people that I'm teaching a course? And
Yeah,
what's the easiest way to sign up for it?
yeah.
So starting November 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, in conjunction with Evolver Learning Labs, I'm teaching a course called How to Thrive as an Empath. Casey, what is the easiest way they can sign up?
They can go to evolverlearninglab.com and see it right there on the homepage, or there's a link in the caption of this video. Also, until November 6th, if you use the code Empath in all caps, you get 20% off the course, which is a huge chunk of it. So take advantage.
Anything else we should do?
Oh wait, there's another discount code just for tuning in. Hopefully you guys saw it because it ends when the video's over. Empath Live 20 is an additional 20% off. So now's the time. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't think we need to attempt at reading it beyond the reading I did online. Do you think so?
It's totally up to you.
How are you feeling, Casey? I think what I could do is do a reading of a picture of somebody
there was
online.
people that really wanted it done.
Maybe, and I can pull up a picture, but the condition of pulling up a picture is they'd have to be willing to have you show the picture.
Okay, well, let's see if they're still here and active.
Or it could be somebody, if somebody would like to be read,
Right.
a picture will suffice, but know that if you volunteer, we're going to show your picture to all 106 people watching.
Who wants to get their reading done through a picture? All right, Christina's the first one to say it. Christina Salvador.
Okay, and Christina Salvador, to be clear, we are going to show your picture to everyone.
Christina, say yes if you consent.
I see Christina Rogers.
Oh wait, we have legitimate consent from Kate Serlin, last one.
That's not up here yet. I think maybe there's a...
Here.
How are you not feeling the intentions of the girls speaking in the room?
I don't think I have any of those.
Why do you... Interesting. This is great, says Jess Brewer. That's great. I could do this all day. I know you can't, but I could. I like answering questions.
I'm into it.
We're looking for a picture. We're having some slight technical difficulties.
Here she is.
Okay, Kate. Which one is Kate?
This one.
All
right, Kate.
Kate, I would love another. Is there another picture of you?
Keep scrolling to
Let's see. There you are. Well, Kate. Kate, you are mysterious, aren't you? Here. Should we show? This is Kate on the left over here. I guess other people are just going to have to be revealed accidentally. There's no other way. Hi, Kate. That's Kate again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to read Kate. I can't tell which one. Maybe this. Maybe this one to the left. Okay. Kate is on the left. So first, let's talk about all the things.
That's a great one.
That's a good one. Let's talk about all the things that we know about Kate without me tuning into her that we can all see for ourselves. Okay. First, we can all see that Kate is very sweet. Can we see this? This is obvious. We don't need any psychic to tell you that. Okay?
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, she's got a real sweetness. Secondly, maybe we can see, it's subtle, but I'll bet
that's a throwback.
That's a throwback. There's a subtle cult. Here you can see it. No, that's somebody else.
No?
That's not? Okay, it says Dolores.
Oh, no.
Okay. There's a, what can I say? No. There's a subtle self-awareness and a cultivation of mystery that we can see just from looking at the photo. Can we all see this? I think so.
On purpose?
Oh no, we lost your picture, Kate. Coming back. Oh,
no. It's the last Facebook one.
Maybe, can you see that, Casey, or maybe not? Maybe that's just me seeing it, in which case it doesn't count.
Yeah, just that it's like, it's hard to, there's no
You don't look at her and go, oh, I know this person up inside out. You're like, wait a second. There's a little bit of game playing. In this picture, you can see the game playing.
Definitely.
There's an awareness there that she's there. You can really see the game playing if that's her in another hair color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Different hair every time.
So, Kate, so what we can say without me really tuning into you on an emotional level or on a deep level is that you've got a real sweetness and you are aware on a subtle energetic level of the ways in which you might affect people, and you're willing to play that game. If we compare that to your friend over here on the left, she's much more transparent. Can you see that? We know what's going on with her. You're a little more hesitant to be fully revealed, even as you are quite playful here. So that's what we get just by looking at Kate. We can all see that if we just tune in. And now I can go a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna use this picture as my foundation here, guys. This is our we'll call her subject. This is our subject, Kate. So I'm gonna take you through my process of reading Kate too. So first, everything I just said, I would not normally think in a reading. I try not to do a cold reading. I just did that because that was fun. But I almost like less information rather than more. I don't use the information I get when I see somebody to help my reading. In fact, I try to shut it off in order to tune in more deeply. So, first what I do is, first I take off my necklace, which is my self-protection.
Uh-oh.
So now I'm more open to what's going on around me. Then I often adjust my body. I don't know why. I think it just happens. It's like I'm preparing myself for allowing something in. And then if I had been doing a reading before, I'll release the last person from me. Now I close my eyes, and I would take somebody's hand to tune into them or feel their energy. In this case, because I'm doing this with a picture, I'm going to leave my eyes open for a second, and in a kind of supernatural experiment, I literally touch the screen and then tune in. And I'm going to start by how I feel Kate is feeling in this picture, and you'll see me start to transform into some version of Kate in this picture. What just happened on my body, I had no control over. I could stop my body from doing that, but once I've allowed that energy in, I have no other way that I could shift. It just does that. So I tune into Kate in this picture, and I get this happening in my body. Now, what I'm feeling on an emotional level is, what am I feeling? I'm feeling a little bit like a mild form of excitement, very mild. And then I'm also feeling a defensiveness and a guardedness. My body is moving like this, and then I interpret these movements as emotions. I should say that in a way that's more clear. So when I'm reading somebody, two things are going on. One, I'm actually having an emotional experience of them. So I am feeling a little bit of this excitement, like I'm going out, just a little bit. Then I'm also, my body is contorting into these different shapes, and I've learned over time how to identify these shapes. These shapes have their own emotional quality to them, that as I tune into them, I can feel the emotion behind them, but I can also just interpret the physical shapes as having a meaning. So this is guardedness, defensiveness. Now you can kind of, sort of, a little bit see that guardedness in this photo. So there's if you tune into what she wants to be seen as like, I'm out, I'm having fun. But you can feel under the surface a defensiveness and a self-protection. And that's what's going on just right now in this photo. So far, so good, Kate?
Interesting.
So now we're going to go beyond the photo, which I've just lost. Beyond the photo. So what I do when I do a reading is I literally ask myself a question in my mind, and then I allow my body to answer. So I ask myself, okay, how is Kate doing? And then I'll say, let's say, generally. How is she feeling generally these days? And then I get this. I'm having a lot of different experiences in my body at once, and I have to interpret them. The first thing I'm feeling, that you can't see, is a lot of tension in the back of my head. This does not mean that Kate has a lot of tension in the back of her head. It's not that literal. She may or may not, but this experience does not indicate that. What I have learned over the years of doing this is that this is a high degree of self-doubt. So I feel the spinning mind that says, am I okay? Is this okay? As here. It also implies overthinking, the exhaustion you get when your mind keeps spinning. Intellectual anxiety, we could call it. Then I'm also feeling this rigidity. Notice I'm tall and taut, T-A-U-T, and tight. And I'm feeling like a determination. So there's a lot of willfulness and energy being expended to be focused and on the ball, even as she's having all this self-doubt. And after I said that, I feel my own body relax. That feeling comes when I feel like I've labeled what I'm experiencing accurately. I feel a release in my own body, like, okay, I got that. That was just happening one level below the surface. if this reading is at all accurate, Kate will be going, yes, that's what's happening with me. Yes, that's right. Then I can go another level below that. And when I start entering these deeper levels, the person may or may not have the experience of these feelings because they might be pushing them down. Kate might be the kind of person who has a habit of pushing down her emotions. She has cultivated a sweetness and a playfulness, while under the surface there's a lot of tension and determination. So as I go deeper into that, I have this experience.
Oh.
This is a feeling of, let's call it, wading through a morass. Everything's really, really difficult. Kate, you make it look easy, but it is not. Whatever it is you're doing is not easy. So it's a lot of struggle and difficulty and frustration. And the feelings range from being really ashamed and feeling like you can't handle it anymore to a fiery and angry determination, like I can do anything. And you oscillate between these poles, like I can't handle it and I can do anything and I need to pull this off. All of this under the surface. And then as I go even deeper, I get to a really vulnerable place of sadness. If you can imagine, all of these levels of determination and will are there to avoid having that deeper experience of sadness come up. It's like we create these, and Kate, we all do, so many of us do, we create these ways of avoiding the deep feeling that we're really feeling. And so in your case, it's a very soft and very vulnerable sadness. I can feel how sensitive you are underneath these layers of determination. And you might, this is where you might very well be an empath, and you might be feeling a lot of what's going on around you, and that might be really, really hard. And so you compensate for that through willpower. And then because you have this sweet exterior, people don't push you on it so hard. As you can see, this is a relatively intense little experiment. Thank you, Kate, for being willing to go through this with us. And then I go all the way down to another level, past all these feelings, into what I experience people to be at their core. And I just sort of open up myself to who they really are. And as I tune into you, Kate, I get this feeling like this. And I want to fall out of my chair. I feel so calm and relaxed and receptive and open and vulnerable. There isn't a whiff of this feeling of needing to achieve or determination or working my way through stuff. It's just this really really receptive and really feminine openness that is at your core. You seem to be operating at a level of speed and intensity that is not your nature. Your nature would be to be much more relaxed and receptive than active and trying to make things happen. And if that rings true to you, Kate, what I would suggest to you is that it might be worthwhile to explore that feeling of sadness. So what I was doing there at the end is I literally asked myself what would be of service to this person, and then my body comes up with an answer, or what does this person need to hear? And then I go like this, and I can start to feel the sadness come up. So that to me is my body's way of telling you, Kate, that your body wants to tell me to tell you that it would be good for you to start to explore the sadness. And by that I mean, when you start to feel it, to embrace it, to allow it in, to make friends with it. And the easier things will start to get. Okay, so that's a reading. Be curious what you think, Kate.
Kate, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, Kate. Thank you for volunteering for that. I think maybe we should take questions based on that reading.
Yeah, let's see. Everyone just wants a reading.
That's I'm toast for the night. That's the only one.
Everyone's seeing, like, it resonates with a lot of people.
That's what I probably just did in reading Kate. The reason it probably resonates with a lot of people is because this might be, and I don't know this, but this might be a fairly common empath way of experiencing the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of determination and intensity. I wonder where you're located, Kate. If you're in New York too, or somewhere else that's intense and draining. Let's see.
Kathy wants to know if that was exhausting.
In this case, it was exhausting, Kathy.
Because it's from afar, or
no,
was her emotions exhausting?
It wasn't so much the reading; it was the audience.
Mm.
So there was an extra layer of consciousness.
You felt that
I felt with the camera. So I was tuning into Kate over here, and then feeling the camera and the audience, and conscious of explaining it as I was doing it. So that was exhausting. If it had just been me and Kate, it would have been fine.
Kate said, "Wow, thank you so much. That was honestly on point. Speechless."
Yay!
Woo!
Thanks, Kate.
Wow. Desiree asks, let's see if there's any specifically. Desiree asks, how did you learn to trust what you were feeling and not second guess it as just anxiety?
What do you mean by second guess it as anxiety? What is she?
Yeah, like I guess like right now you're feeling like the anxiousness of, like you said, there's that layer of anxiousness of like being on camera. How did you know what was, I guess you touched on this earlier, but just now you can really tell when it's someone else's emotion.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Casey, you want to explain the question?
I see it as, I think it's just another way of asking, how do you differentiate between what's yours and what's not yours?
So the slight anxiety I felt around being on camera, I was able to distinguish that anxiety from Kate's feelings. And that's because that slight anxiety, it wasn't much, that slight anxiety I'm so familiar with. That old guy, I know him, so I was able to not even integrate it into the reading. It just didn't. And Kate's emotional life that I described is not that similar to mine. I was entering into a zone that did not feel entirely familiar to me.
Marla wants you to read The Girl in the Room with you. Maybe for another time.
Another time.
Let's see. Everyone wants a reading. All right. I guess I know you talked a lot about the protecting. Susan wants to know if you suggest a spot technique to reserve your energy, protect oneself when in a crowd, like right then you're feeling overwhelmed, instead of just like practices for guarding yourself. Is there like a emergency?
Okay. The number one emergency thing I promise you is to leave.
Get away.
Okay. Number two though, like if I found myself in a subway with Kevin Spacey, for instance, like put the shield up. Literally envision a shield surrounding you, maybe 2 or 3 feet out from you. As I envision it now, it's a bubble. I can feel less of Casey's the one who's filming this and managing this whole process. I can feel less of Casey's energy when I put up a bubble. Like I am impenetrable. You could also try imagining a hole in the center of your chest and seeing the energy go through your chest.
Yeah. Someone's asking if you practice law of attraction at all. I can't really speak on
do I practice law of attraction?
Is.
Do I envision something and then manifest it?
I guess that means that.
I suppose I do that, yes. But I will say that I do something better than that, because I think that's kind of bullshit, is honestly my feeling. The problem with law of attraction thinking is that it doesn't address why you want what you want. So you could want a Porsche, and then you work to manifest a Porsche. Maybe you get a Porsche, and maybe the Porsche makes you miserable. Maybe you don't get the Porsche and you feel crappy. There's something It's all light and no shadow. So a process I like to go through is, and I learned this from a guy named John David Roberts, I think, but it's very Jungian at its core. John Marshall Roberts wrote a book called The Voice Code, and he talks about this. I love it. You envision what you really, really want. You're like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get $1 million. $1 million. And then you start to feel that part of you that doesn't believe it. Like, no way, I'm not going to get $1 million. Now, in the law of attraction, you transcend that part by focusing all the more intensely on your vision. And in the new paradigm, or the Jungian paradigm, or the better paradigm, you actually make friends with the part of you that resists that vision. So you go, oh, I'm not going to get $1 million. I don't believe in myself. And you start going, well, why don't I believe in myself? Where's that coming from? What's that about? Oh, that's interesting. I don't believe in myself for X, Y, and Z reason. And then you can start to see what's really going on with yourself at a deeper level. And then you will either resolve it and $1 million will fall on your lap, or you realize that your desire for $1 million is just to cover up the fact that you're really insecure about your hair. You know, who the hell knows?
Wow. Oh, man. It's just what I'm seeing is just crazy that everyone is just seeming really grateful that knowing that there's other people like them out there. So yeah, empaths unite.
Yes, we're everywhere. I mean, we're not alone in feeling other people's feelings, and we haven't been. The word empath is great because we have a word. But we haven't been gathering in circles too much. We haven't been accepting that this is a shared experience.
Yeah, and treating it like a skill that needs to be refined and needs to be like nurtured, and yeah.
Yeah,
it's our time.
It's our time. it's the world. The world needs empaths now to own their power because the world needs empathy. There's a huge deficit of empathy. There always has been a deficit of empathy, but now people are becoming aware of the deficit of empathy and are desperately looking for it. And they're looking for it in the same way white men in charge have always looked for things, by trying to analyze it. And that doesn't work. Empathy will not be reduced to an analysis, no matter how hard they try or how many computer programs they build to try to mimic what human beings are like. Empathy is an experience in the body of another. And people need that. And so we can teach that if we own it in ourselves.
Awesome. We can hone it all together with your upcoming course.
Yes, and with that, let's gather together. I will do my best to bring us together as empaths over 4 weeks, and I will share everything that I can about how I was able to make friends with this ability and use it openly and easily and lightly. I will share the tips and tricks I know about how to protect and defend yourself, and I will share how I fully go into another person's experience in my own body, allow it to take me over, and transcend. And I think we did good, huh?
I think we did great.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and I hope to see you in my class in a couple weeks.